Hello, what's up, guys? Welcome back. I always appreciate each and every single time that you give your attention and energy to the channel, the shares, the likes, the subscribes. It means so much to me. And I've been doing a lot of videos with the V14, and I've absolutely been loving everything about the wheel. But I do have other wheels, and I felt like I wanted to take a ride. Wanted to take a ride on my Patton today, and so that's what I did. Took it out to the skate park just to romp around and try and have a good time. In the last video, in the Super Cow video that I did regarding the Patton, somebody had asked where I got the seat and top panels from. Since then, the top panels, little covers for the shocks, well, I've lost those, sadly. So I no longer have them. But the combo, can be had at AliExpress for, I think it was like $87 for the pads and for the little bumper cover things for the shocks. When I go out to the skate park, I tend to sit back at first and see who's there, check out what they're doing, make sure that I'm not going to get inside of their organic splash zone, if that makes sense. So that way I don't bother anyone, I don't get in anyone's way. If you haven't yet seen Rasputin Bogard, he brought to my attention that Freshly Charged did a really great video of the V14, and that is a fact. It was a really great video. They did a wonderful little review. And also, congratulations to Andrew, who is going to be a father very soon. Cheers, man. Cheers. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations. They made a lot of good points with regard to it making you a jumper. The wheel does not bottom out. It handles insane drops from all sorts of heights. So, for me, that makes it a definite win. After I take a second to sit back and gauge the splash zone of everybody that is at the skate park, I then make it a point to kind of assess the lines that I'm interested in. When I first came here on my on my V8, I didn't really have a whole lot that I could do. So I kind of tried to figure out what it was that I was shooting to do, and I made sure that I stayed inside of that area. I didn't wander around thinking kind of aimlessly with my head in the clouds. Each square foot of a skate park is really functional space for people. So try to plan out what you're going to do before you go and you start taking up unnecessary space. It really is going to help if you have some power pads, some torque pads. Really any old pads will do. Have an understanding of how to preload. Work on your bonks. If you're not super comfortable in front of people, maybe consider getting to the skate park earlier or on a weekday at a funny time in the morning sort of thing. Just at times, the skate park can be a little bit thick, and it's a little bit intimidating to sometimes accomplish what it is that you're trying to do when there are other people who are there and you may feel they're critical of you. DJ Whiteflower mentioned with regard to the last video that I did on the group ride, and I'm just going to go ahead and quote him here. The other thing that isn't really talked about with respect to what people should consider for first wheel, consider first, is battery capacity and weight. He said wheel size, obviously. He said capacity and weight. For someone who wants to get somewhere and ride trails all day without charging, a bigger battery would be important, but somewhat less enjoyable. Of course, that is tied to wheel size and seems to be the way it should be. Heavier wheels seem to need the stability of bigger tires. If everyone in the group has multiple smaller wheels and a giant battery charger, that would be ideal. So many variables to consider. What DJ White Flower is mentioning here is, of course, really worth considering. I didn't mention this. This is a cross-country scenario. So if you, like for instance, I used to ride with Aaron, and he would love to ride out all day long. He would like to stretch his ride over the course of a minimum of 40 miles and would go, I believe, as long as 60 to 80 miles. And that was at a pace that was not super intense. It was exploratory. So anywhere from 15 to 25 miles an hour with intermittent spurts is how he would go about that. And I think it is really important to consider that. Marty Back, he likes to do the cross-country thing, or I would gauge by the way that he does the touring rides with people that come to visit in California. So I think that that is definitely worthwhile and worth considering. So not only considering the street ride, which I had mentioned, the high-speed street riding, not only considering the tight twisting, trails, but also considering the range, the actual cross-country riding, which some people really do enjoy that. And people who live in more rural areas that are separated, well, they may in fact need that sort of capacity. Whenever you come to the skate park, always, always, always wrist guards. I sometimes don't wear the wrist guards as often as I should when I'm riding normally. I wear padded gloves, but I'm getting away from that because I've fallen a couple of times. I have gone a little bit too far on the FAFO graph, and my left palm is a little bit mad at me. I'm not trying to enter any iron palm contests, any iron slap contests, so it's a little bit unnecessary, I think, to have to have that liability, especially since I have some really nice wrist guards on hand. So there we go. Whenever you go to the skate park, wrist guards. If you plan on jumping a lot, consider some hip and butt pads. Falling on your tailbone or on your hip on the sides is not something that is super duper fun, and it happens. It should go without saying that you do have elbow and knee pads. That's just a given. Elbow, knee, and a helmet. But the auxiliaries you definitely do want. That was a 44-degree angle. There was a tiny dip at the front, but it did that with no problem. I'm going to have to take the V14 back to this spot because that grip was insane. It was really, 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 really grippy. Like, I did not slip, not a little bit. So, yeah, thanks, DJ White Flower, and thanks, City of Gainesville, for, Possum Creek. That was a lot of fun. I like going there. I have a really good time whenever I do. If you want the supercut of the skate park, then you'll want to check that out on my Instagram. Big O, he mentioned a couple of things. He asked a couple of questions, and this is a relevant part of the video to go over it. So he asked if do I think getting used to the V13 size and weight has increased my abilities riding smaller, lighter wheels like the V14, and definitely it makes your central nervous system a lot more powerful. So light things, heavy things become very light. It's kind of like Superman, right? So like when you're handling this heavy amount of gravity that you have when you're on Krypton, and then you hop off of Krypton to a regular planet where you're not handling all that gravity, so all of that force is kind of what I'm saying, the force of that big wheel trying to yank it in turns. When you turn around and you transfer all of that strength into a smaller wheel, oh gosh, yeah, you definitely have a lot more power and a lot more control. The downside to that is you can overcompensate sometimes. I would highly recommend that when transferring back and forth between wheels, especially wheels of a different diameter, if you're blessed enough to have several wheels on hand, give yourself, like a 5-mile break-in period again when you hop to different diameter wheels. Reacclimate to what it feels like. Don't oversend. This is going to make sure that you have the least likelihood of getting hurt or breaking something. I have gotten hurt and I have broken something a number of times by hopping back and forth between wheels and then pegging it and assuming that there was going to be no difference in the way that it felt. Incorrect on my part. And Big O also asked if I had any trail tips, any, for when it's slick, light mud tips for balance and control. What I will say is this. Get a video of a chicken on YouTube. This sounds really funny, but if you've ever seen the video of a chicken on YouTube where they move the chicken around, but its head stays in the same spot, that's kind of the notion. You want the center of your body, the center of your gravity, to remain in the same spot and not deviate very much. So essentially, even though I'm moving from side to side, I'm turning in the trails, my knees are pulling up into my body per the exercise video that I demonstrated, the trail form, the coil form for the body. So every time that I go over a bump, not only is the suspension eating up whatever is beneath me, but I am pulling my knees up into my chest, trying to lift my feet up over the terrain, creating this very limited force against the ground. The more force that you push into a wheel, the more force that the tire puts into the point of traction. Whether that point of traction is on the pavement or on the dirt makes a big difference, or on gravel or on mud. So when you apply too much force to a given surface that does not have the built-in rigidity to support this, or the traction to support this, you will lose your point of contact, where the tire makes contact with the ground. So when I see that the ground is becoming compromised, whether loose gravel, pine straw, slick mud, whatever it may be, I limit the amount of downforce. If I'm in a hard acceleration, I continue to coast through that acceleration. But until I get out of the swirly area, I minimize the amount of force that I am allowing through the wheel. So I'm essentially on cruise control, and I'm waiting for the next point of contact. When riding trails, it's important to predict that. When riding fire trails, it's important to predict that. When riding the street, it's important to predict that. In the street, you'd want to minimize the amount of force when you come across a slick area like sand on the road, like water in the street, like oil in the street. Any of these instances will compromise the amount of friction that you can engage. And that friction is where we derive control. So in the trails, again, when it becomes loose, when you feel that happening, you're going to want to peel back the amount of acceleration and the amount of lateral force that you're allowing the pavement to receive. And then think about that chicken, okay? Keeping that head centered. I'll see if I can find a video of it, actually. I think that would be good. But actually, no, I don't. You know what? I'm going to mess something up if I do that, just because of the way the bears work, but it's just it's a chicken, and when you move it side to side, the head stays right there in the center. That's the best imagery that I can get before a big O. And if you try to mimic that sort of thing, it takes a lot of core control. But if you try to mimic that sort of thing, you're going to have a much better time controlling in the corners and less likely to lose yourself or your wheel in the corners. Additionally, think about handling into the pedals, right? So think about handling into the outside ridges of your toes into the pedals quite wide. And that's going to give you the best chance at handling as well. Thank you, Jonah Hacks, for the belated birthday, bro. You know what? I'll see if I can get a hold of a Begode Extreme or the Extreme Bull Commander Mini, just because these are all valid points of conversation. And I don't think that being an advocate of positivity and non-bias of brands, I don't think that being that person that I can ignore or not test a wheel or demonstrate a wheel that I am afforded the opportunity to demonstrate. Uh, I am loyal to the progress of the industry as a whole and to good business practices. I think there are fanboys on all sides of the conversation with regards to these wheels that make it a little bit bad for everybody. We can't all just get along. It's completely possible. So I would really like to be able to do that, Jonah. So just watch out. I'm reaching out. We're gonna see what happens, brother. And I thought this was really cute. Curtis 8892H, he says, "Your videos are so amateur," and I like that way. I also like the polished, kick-ass music and fantastic edited shot videos. I do like being entertained, but your videos give a deeper understanding of our hobby. Keep doing what you're doing. And thanks, man. I'm gonna keep on trying. I think that this is not just a hobby. It is a potential way of life, at least for me. It has become that. So I'm going to continue to convey that. And, however many people do or don't stick around for the message or for the videos, I'm still going to put out the videos. And I promise I am so, so, so grateful for every single bit of feedback and commentary with regards to it. Of course, I have blind spots, though, guys. I'm not perfect. I don't think anybody is. But if you see that I have a blind spot, if you see that I haven't mentioned something, or if you feel that I've been unfair, then, please always feel free to bring that up, bring that to light, Let's see. Doc Mantis, 9863. My toxic trait is that I cannot decide on which wheel to upgrade from my RSHT. That's a boss wheel, so, I can understand you having a hard time trying to figure out what you want to upgrade to. 4K is pricey for the links, but, it might be worth it, man. If, I don't know. Yeah, it might just be worth it. The Patton does speak volumes of quality. It feels like a very well-engineered piece of equipment. If there is the same attention given to the Link's big brother, well, that's just going to be saucy. I suspect, anyway. It's going to be real saucy. Right here, we're going to give you a little bit of a seated tutorial. And yes, everybody's doing it wrong. So, what I mean by that is, we are on an electric vehicle. Electric vehicles are predicated on their efficiency. Okay? They have to be efficient in order to make the most use of their energy. Therefore, wind resistance is a significant problem. Oftentimes, I see people seated, like here, right here. I'm trying to demonstrate it. With the
I'm going to take my super cow.
Okay?
To meet
and I figured that this was as good a time as any to demonstrate it. But you want to, when you're riding, minimize your air drag, your wind resistance. You want to get most of your weight over the center of the wheel to minimize the amount of work that the wheel has to do in order to balance you. Oh! No, seriously, that's a real cow.
That's crazy.
Seriously, that's a super cow.
So,
guys, pardon me. I know I'm stupid. I'm sorry. I had to. This video does no justice to exactly how big that cow was, okay? So here I am again. We're back to this seated tutorial. We're dramatizing this, okay? We got the knees really, really nice and really, 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 really wide. But do you see, this is like a wind sail. This is like a catch. Okay, so I'm catching all sorts of wind here. This is totally not efficient. It's nice that I brought my height down so that there's less of the sail than if I was standing, but still, having those knees out is not the way to do it. And additionally, it produces pain in the toes and the outside ridge of the toes because you got your toes propped up, and then it produces pain in the outside of the knees. Now here, what we've done, we've closed the wind resistance. We've got less of that gap, and because of that, we are far more efficient at moving forward. And you'll actually notice a palpable difference. Okay, and not only do we do that, but after that, I like to bring my feet forward. I'll demonstrate that here in a second, but the pain in the knees on the outside there when you're just resting, because we're not engaged, right? You're just letting your legs fall out. What I'm asking you to do is squeeze your legs together, bring them together, and that's going to minimize the amount of pain that you experience instead of just letting them fall out. So we're getting rid of pain in the knees. We're maximizing on the efficiency of our ride. And let's see here. Yep, we're going to show you one more time here. So you'll see right here that we hinge at the waist first, okay? Trying to get down into that seated position. You're hinging at the waist first, and essentially there's a line straight down through your knees, from your elbow through your knees. So the idea is that you bend at your waist, you bring your elbows down through your knees, right? And by the time you make contact with your knees, your bottom should be on your seat. That's going to be the best way to make sure that you keep your center of gravity. Again, knees wide is a big old no-no. One knee out for a turn during a racing scenario is perfectly legitimate. Both knees out for a long-term cruise is quite silly. Additionally, where I'm holding myself, I'm not sitting with my bottom directly down, right? So traditional methods of seating put the weight down through the center of your spine, okay? When I bring my knees together, what I'm actually doing is I'm supporting the weight with the back of my hamstrings, with the back of my legs. So I no longer have this one point of contact where my tailbone bottom, where the bottom crack of my bottom is, but I actually am using my thighs to support the weight. And then I'm also bringing my feet forward just a little bit to minimize the hinge of my ankles there. So I want to not be sitting super high on my toes, but I'm actually trying to bring my feet forward just a little bit. And by doing that, it's minimizing that arc, that angle of arc at the ankle, and allowing me to get more flat on my feet. And this is going to put my feet just a little bit ahead of the pedals, but that's okay. When you're riding over a long period of time, you're going to be seeking this sort of comfort, this sort of stamina. So again, hinging at the waist, right? Elbows are almost in contact with the knees, bottom makes contact with the seat, and at that point, we're looking to pinch the thighs, right? We're trying to pinch the thighs over the center line of the vehicle. And what that's going to do is allow you to support your weight on the back of your thighs and not just down through the center line of that spine. That's really important because if you hit a bump or an incidental thing, you're actually engaged, okay? So we're demonstrating that great form again. So if you hit a bump while your knees are pinching, while your legs are pinching, and you're actually engaged, you're not going to be propped off of the wheel. Your body's going to seek the path of least resistance if you hit a bump and you're not using this technique. And what that's going to do is it's going to put your bottom straight through the ground and kind of bend at the wheel and throw you off to the side. Anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I hope that you learned something. I thank you so much for everything. And please like, share, subscribe. You guys are the best. And big shout out to my sponsor for this video, Lazy Rollers. Love my performance black hoodie, guys. Seriously, these guys over at Lazy Rollers have been supporting me for the longest time. A big fan of the way that I ride, just for the way that I ride. So if you're in the market for some protection, check them out. Later.